Hey, Trucked Up guys and gals, welcome to the second episode of Trucked Updates, covering all that's happened since the last Trucked Update. And holy smokes, there is so much to unpack from the month of September. So I'm going to do my very best to blast through it all and to get you up to date on the latest EV truck news, because we got a lot of sales numbers. We got all kinds of stuff. So let's waste zero time and get totally trucked up. Speaking of news, I have some exclusive content coming up for my YouTube and Patreon members regarding what the heck is going on with Thor, my lightning flash that suffered an unfortunate injury, and highly shocking and revealing stuff that's transpired and leading to a choice that I'll have to make, which at some point I'll go live with for all of you once it's all finalized. But if you want a sneak peek about what the heck is going on, please consider joining as a member either through the Patreon link in the description below or via the YouTube join button somewhere down here. So you'll know more about that as things move forward. I think the best way to tackle all the EV truck news beyond my own EV truck news is to dive right into the big picture stuff and then break it down by each EV truck out there or not out there, or what's eventually going to be out there, or what's eventually now not going to be out there.
God, this old loser is totally out there.
Anyway, the big picture is really freaking big. Oh sure, we're going to have the yeehaw, fud chucker, weenie roast crowd going into full-blown fact-bereft crap mode about how EV incentives are the only way EVs sell, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that people are smart, other than the fud-chucking weenie roast yeehaws, and have just wisely held off purchasing until they could get as much free money as they could to make their next vehicle purchase, which overwhelmingly, it seems, is turning out to be EVs, knowing very well the car makers themselves might be under a little pressure, and they'll also lower prices to boost sales, and then they get a double whammy by getting that and the latest of the EV incentives. And boom, pow, that's exactly what happened. And EV sales in the US are not tanking.
Only for free doesn't help,
But blasting into the stratosphere, setting all kinds of new sales records. Yeah, that's right. Aren't facts fun? According to numbers from CNBC and Motor Intelligence, US pure EV sales, so excluding hybrids, including the plug-in EVs, or now what's referred to as FEV. You saw this video where my tooth fell out. Yeah, I guess FEVs, which I believe stands for acronyms, topped 1 million units for the first 9 months of 2025, setting a new record for quarterly US EV sales, topping 438,000 units in Q3 2025 alone. That's a market share of 10.5% of every single vehicle that's sold in the US. That's also a whopping 22% leap year over year from Q3 2024. Let's just zoom in on that for a second. Overall, US vehicle sales for Q3 are expected, once all the numbers are tallied, to be around 6% above last year, which means if you exclude EV sales, internal combustion engine vehicle sales are either flat or down. Yeah, that many EVs sold to impact the overall numbers upward for United States. Even better news for we trucked up bunch is that EV trucks represented some of that stellar growth overall, with every brand moving the needle upward except for one, and we'll get to that. Now, all the naysayers, they're going to forecast that Q4 US sales without incentives will be a free fall. EVs sales will just die. EVs are done the moment they're gone. But if Europe is any indicator, I'm not so sure about that. Almost all EV incentives dried up in Europe in 2024. But once everyone knew they weren't coming back, and there was no more uncertainty or reason to hold off for potential free cash, the fear of missing out, or the FOMO effect, there's another one of the stupid things. You know, If you took an old fart like me and you dropped me 10 years in the future, I'd have no freaking idea what any young person would be saying. By the way, I don't know, not gonna lie, that Billy's gone, to be honest, shake my head 100% skibbity. No cap, Billy is so salty that we're like, he's Delulu. What the did I just say? What? Anyway, with all the foamies, or the FOMO effect in Europe gone, sales subsequently rebounded. Yeah, that's right. In fact, with no incentives at all for the first 8 months of 2025, it's showing stellar growth of 26% increase compared to the same 8 months of 2024. So much for that theory. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how the year ends, but EVs in the United States are not vanishing. TBH, EVs are fire. Don't ask me what the heck I just said. Look it up on Google. The big story, however, in September is Tesla. For better or for worse, despite slumping sales in China and Europe, Tesla posted record number of vehicles delivered in Q3 2025. The company saw a 7.3% year-over-year increase, beating analysts' expectations. Globally, Tesla moved 497,099 units, but it still looks like it will be finishing the year down by at least 10% from 2024, but who knows? There might yet be another positive surprise in its Q4 sales, so we'll just have to wait and see on that as well. However, outside of sales, Tesla is experiencing a mass exodus of its talent. Tons of senior personnel have just had enough. Between Musk's 5 companies, Financial Times just did a story that estimated a loss of over 140,000 of Musk's workers, and other companies are gobbling up that talent. This brain drain are the very people that Musk needs to rely on to keep things on course, especially with many high-profile figures jumping ship. How will this impact Tesla moving forward? Who knows? Anyone who's counted this guy out in the past has been dead wrong. So there's that. We'll just, again, wait and see what transpires. But it's not good. And also in September, there's some more bad news brought along by another issue for Tesla in the form of lawsuits regarding the safety of the Cybertruck's door handles. Some events resulting in fatalities. Many of you have heard about this in the news. And for a truck that has been riddled with recalls, this is yet another hurdle for an EV truck that's just not selling well. And being this is an EV truck channel, and I just mentioned it's not selling well, what are the Cybertruck sales like? We haven't got there yet. Well, things are not improving, and I'm being polite. Deliveries of the Cybertruck Model X and the Model S, they get stuffed together. They don't report each one of those model sales individually. But no matter how we slice this, the Cybertruck may be approaching a point of no return. Sales have actually plummeted sharply compared to last year. The other models category accounts, with all those 3 vehicles stuffed in it, accounted for just shy of 16,000 deliveries, 15,933 deliveries. That's a 30% year-over-year drop. Q1 was estimated at 6,000 units. Q2, we're estimating around 4,000 units. And this is only a guess at this point, but what we're hearing is somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 units for Q3. That means year to date, we're somewhere around 13, maybe 14,000 units. Again, we'll have to wait it out to find out what the final is for the year, but it might be time to, hold a wake. This means also that the Lightning's top sales title from last quarter looks like it's going to hold. But I'm jumping ahead here because Ford doesn't deserve the spotlight next. If we're going in order of top sales, that would mean the next best EV champion to Tesla is GM, and by a lot. This is a stellar moment for EV trucks and EVs overall. CEO Mary Barra, it turns out, did lead. You led, Mary. She led. I'm eating the crow. There it is. I've officially said it. This old legacy fart is kicking the new kids squarely in the gonads with some of the best EV sales numbers outside of Tesla we've ever seen. In fact, it is no longer at like that 90% distant second to Musk's brand, but is rapidly outpacing every brand's growth by a staggering amount. To put things into perspective, GM has already outsold all of 2024, and we're only just starting October when I filmed this. It's already sold 103% more for the entire year to date compared to last year, with a total just shy of 145,000 EVs delivered already for 2025. And to further demonstrate that it's not trending the other way, it's sold exactly that percentage above last year, 103%, in this quarter compared to Q3 2024. That's over double for Q3. And Q3 2024 was a good quarter. They moved over 66,000 EVs. I mean, let's just think about that for a moment. Moving over 66,000 EVs in 3 months is more than every single vehicle sale made by Rivian and Lucid in their entire fiscal year combined. But we're here to talk about EV trucks. So how did GM do on the truck front? Well, according to GM Authority, Silverado EV sales jumped 98% from 1,995 units in Q3 of 2024 to 3,940 for the quarter, with year-to-date sales up almost 80%, just shy of topping that magical 10,000 sales mark compared to 5,300 in 2024. Q3 was also incredibly kind to the Hummer EV. This has been the surprise story of the year, actually. Sales of 5,246 units. Now remember, these things are not cheap. GM is making money off these things, okay? That's up from 4,305 in 2024. So that puts it up almost 50% year to date at 13,233 EVs that we know sold compared to 8,902 in 2024. And that stat brings the Cybertruck back into stark focus. The Hummer EV just outsold it. GMC Sierra EV numbers, it was the high-end brand because it was just a Denali, and then came out the AT4s. Now we're seeing, what's it called again? Elevation. So those are just come out. So the numbers are all skewed up because it was just ramping up the Denali this time last year. They're kind of fun and goofy to look at, so here it goes. Q3 sales are up a paltry 772%, hitting 3,374 units, while year-to-date sales are up 1,488% to 6,147 units. Although, it's fun to see, but GM actually only sold 387 Sierra EVs in the first 3 quarters of 2024. So now, as you know, I love the Lightning. Now, although Ford has really dropped the ball on introducing new models and trims compared to the previous companies, I mean, even Tesla, with all this bad press and everything else, they introduced new models and they're still going to come out with more models. So they're moving and GM is moving. Ford, same 2 models, that they launched before everybody else. But the reality is, even with that, the public loves the 2 consumer offerings that they do have. It just achieved an EV sales record this quarter, defying the age of these offerings and proving that Ford might not be reading the tea leaves as well as they thought. At almost 86,000 electrified vehicles sold year to date, now that includes their hybrid truck, that now represents just shy of 16% of the company's overall sales. The Mach-E just had its best quarter in history, jumping 51% for a Q3 finish of over 20,000 of the SUVs sold. But the big story here as well for me is the Lightning. It not only retains its title as the world's #1 full-size light-duty EV truck in sales, but expands upon it. Q3 delivered over 10,000 Lightnings to consumers, a 40% increase over Q3 2024. Now this truck has been it's been out since early 2022 and is getting a little long in the tooth and desperately needing a refresh. But after a sluggish Q1 and Q2, and with many pundits expecting its overall annual performance to fall, its year-to-date sales numbers of 23,034 units still beats 2024's total year-to-date sales of 22,807. Sure, we still have a quarter to go, but it's looking a lot more promising now. And One would think CEO Jim Farley would be really happy with these numbers, but he's obviously continuing his 180-degree pirouette ballet move to continue to slam his own products, getting obviously everyone prepped for whatever he's going to be coming out with next, which I can almost be certain is going to have a gas engine in it. As you know, overall, I don't think any of it will be good for light-duty, full-size pickups in the EV space. In September, he came out and said that one of the best-selling EVs in the country, the Mach-E, was, quote, I'm not kidding here, not the future of Ford, unquote. He then confirmed what I said in my video on Ford's so-called Model T moment. If you missed that, you can watch that video right here, where I forecast that the new platform would lead to a truck in shape only, and it would be less capable than a Maverick. Farley stated when interviewed on The Verge's Decoder podcast that, quote, our first body style with the new Model T platformy thing will be a pickup, but it's really not a pickup. I would say it's a new silhouette. What I mean by that is it has more room than a RAV4, the best-selling passenger car in the US. That doesn't include its wonderful frunk and pickup truck bed. It is very fast. It's rear-wheel drive. It's super fun. And it has a digital experience that no one's seen, at least that we've seen, even in China. The digital experience is quite different for customers. I think the whole package is something that has not been offered in the US or anywhere else to date. I think this first product is quite revolutionary. That's great. It's revolutionary. It sounds wonderful. But in other words, it's not a frickin' truck, EV or otherwise. It's not a mid-size truck. It's not a full-size truck. It's a mini SUV cop-out that looks like a truck and can't do any truck things, but it competes with a RAV4? Is this some kind of pathetic joke? But it gets worse. Then he goes on to say, also in September, when interviewed on Yahoo Finance, that, quote, US buyers aren't interested in our $75,000 electric vehicles, and implied that Ford will stop making them. But hold on a second. Ford isn't making $75,000 electric vehicles in the US. He seems to be confusing the Mach-E and the Lightning with his gas-guzzling Expedition, or his Lincoln V8 fleets, or his diesel-spewing F350s. I think all of those are over $75,000. I'm listening to a CEO that I've respected for years, completely feeding the FUD trope narrative in order to sell more V8s and Power Strokes or E-Revs or whatever the hell he's going to come out with, placating the current political whims while Ford gets its $5 billion Model T moment RAV4 truck wannabe platform constructed.
Ford has never made a statement about being all electric. We are number 3 in hybrids. 30% of all F150s, the best-selling vehicle in the United States, are hybrid now. We want to offer them a range of vehicles. We will offer an affordable EV for city use. These $70,000 EVs with $30,000 batteries, that is not the future. We think E-Revs, hybrids make a lot more sense. And if you're towing, for your job, you're not going to want an electric vehicle, maybe not even a hybrid.
This is the biggest EV truck hit and short-term EV sellout overall that is underway in America. And I stand by my assessment in this video right here that Farley is attempting to soften the blow when Ford pulls the plug on the Lightning in 2027. I think that's where we're going. God, I hope I am so completely wrong. But since September, it's been a little bit of a rough one listening to all of this. This sure in the heck isn't the doubling down we heard from him at the 2024 Aspen Ideas Festival. But again, time will tell. And besides, I'm going to need some blood pressure meds if we don't just move on to the next EV truck before I completely blow a gasket. Let's move on to Rivian. Rivian's plugging right along, pun intended, but the company's sales still only represent a mere 3% of overall US EV sales. But it's not a problem here. They have the R2 lines and the R3s on their way, and that should really boost things, creating an affordable, really cool platform, I think. But from a truck perspective, The R1T doesn't look like it's getting any kind of major refresh outside of its in-house quad motor Gen 2 configuration that just dropped, that we have now out in September as well. More news. But as many influencers such as John Rittinger and Marquis Auto Focus channel have determined after reviewing it, there's not a lot of impetus for a current R1T owner to upgrade unless you really are obsessed with having the fastest and most costly truck on the frickin' road. And I'm not sure Rivian will move many of these because of that. I mean, in Canada, the price is just so astronomical. It's beyond reach for most EV truck folk. In fact, any truck folk. But with all that said, Rivian still knocked it out of the park, delivering its best quarter ever. And I think this is very revealing. Being their products don't qualify for direct finance incentives or purchase incentives unless you lease, and you're using the lease loophole, which means people still want a luxury EV truck or SUV, and they don't give a crap and don't need incentives goading them to buy one. Now remember, Rivian doesn't break down its sales per vehicle. You don't have one for the R1T and the R1S. They're combined again. But we do know that the SUV is easily outselling the truck at around like 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio. Rivian produced 10,720 vehicles. But here's the cool part. They delivered 13,201 to customers. That means Rivian substantially reduced its inventory. Even better, that's a 32% jump compared to the previous quarter in 2025, and an increase of more than 30% year over year. I am so hopeful for Rivian. I think they're doing everything right. And you got to admit, that's just, if I could own one of those trucks, I'd be driving one of those trucks, but I need to win the lottery. Or, you know, if anyone out there is feeling generous this season, and is a venture capitalist who'd like to invest some money into something they'll never get it back from. But we've got more EV truck news about what's not happening. You can actually have EV truck news about nothing in particular. And when it comes to things where nothing's happening on a regular basis and doing nothing in particular, well, we look no further than our legacy bumpkins at Stellantis. That's right, it's diligently at work, feverishly doing nothing whatsoever other than canceling crap they spent over 3 years hyping to us. Here's the update. The pure EV Ram truck, known as the Ram REV 1500, is no more. Irreverently shot in the front and left on the scrap heap for dead, but not before ripping off all of its labels and its badges, because you spent money designing those, and they took them off the badge plate and they super glued them onto the, again, yet to be released for the third straight year, Ramcharger, which naturally is being renamed and rebranded as the Ram REV 1500, just to ensure no truck folk have a stinking clue what Stellantis is doing anymore, and I think that seems to also include Stellantis. We have seen some Ram REV mules, but there's no update on the release being anything other than sometime in early to mid 2026, which based on their track record should be in our driveways the same week we have that manned mission to Mars land. And to re-emphasize this, the 2024 Ramcharger became the 2025 Ramcharger and was most recently updated to the 2026 Ramcharger, is now the all-new 2027 Ram REV 1500. Haven't we heard this song and dance before? Anyway, let's move on. Because we've got more nothing to talk about, and that Scout has nothing for us, nothing burger, nothing at all. Scout seems to have embraced this theme by going completely radio silent on their monthly updates, because the last one I was able to find was May, or an update of any kind. And their so-called launch date is coming up fast, and we still don't have a build and price or any news information on their website or any confirmed specs. I have a reservation for the Terra, so I really want to get some more detailed information on this truck because I really like what Scout's doing. But who knows if this thing will ever make it to Canada, with tariffs and trade problems and all the things going on make it too expensive. Far be it from us to want more EV trucks, right? I still do have my fingers crossed for these folk. I really do. I love these vehicles. Now, some final nothingness before we call it a day. Slate came out with a few more configurations of their Mr. Potato Head truck. But now that the incentives are toast, we're hearing less on how Slate plans to make this affordable as a stripped down, clean, clean slate? Blank slate? They're all kind of cute. They're cute, they're catchy. Clean slate, blank slate, I don't remember which one. Other than how it quietly went from under $20,000 to the mid-20s now in their narrative. But I'm not as optimistic that this truck, which is a really cool idea. It's a novel idea, but can make it to market by later 2026 for the 2027 model year and manage under $30,000. But they're going to have to. And that's because we've got competitors. We've got companies already like Ford with their Model T moment, seeing the void. So I'm not even sure they're going to be able to compete head to head. If you can get a under 30,000 or 30K RAV4 truckish looking thing that has similar specs to the Slate, but you get all kinds of stuff with it, and they're talking about all the interface and the great software and how amazing a digital experience it'll be. And they have the Slate that's got rolling windows. I don't know, man. That's a tough sell. Lastly, Telo. Yes, there's some news. Telo managed to raise $20 million to begin moving towards small-scale production of the Telo MT1. You say, is that a typo? Do you say $20 million to move toward production? Are you on crack? No, it's a paltry sum of money. I get it. And it almost seems completely laughable for a startup to claim a move toward production with a pittance of what other startups have needed to raise. But firstly, I don't think this is anywhere near the final investment round that's been announced in September. Also, the fact that two of Tesla's co-founders, Mark Tarpenning and Yves Baer, I believe is how his name is pronounced, are two of those investors of that 20 million, along with a unique approach. And that approach is being able to stay highly capital efficient by going with incredibly low volume contract manufacturing using off-the-shelf parts, top to bottom, front to back. It gives me some cautious optimism that Telo can get a few vehicles on the road and create some initial cash flow. And that's smart. Hey, if you like this content, let me know. 70% of return viewers never subscribe or click like. So please go click crazy and keep in touch in the comments. Get a dialogue going, have a big discussion down there. Those things make a direct positive impact on the channel. You make a difference by those actions that you take. You help this channel grow. And I want to thank you so deeply because that's exactly what you've been making happen. Let's keep it going. I just love doing this. I love being a part of this community. As always, thanks so much for watching.